West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
How I've been affected by gun violence over the years is through deaths of friends and family members and associates.
When I was 5 years old, I was held at gunpoint in a home invasion.
I've gone to the juvenile detention centers and I've met dozens of young kids, babies really, who have been affected by gun violence.
Directly, I've lost a few friends, but I think why this touches my heart is having children of my own.
You know, I've been at parties where, you know, I had just left the party and, you know, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, you know, I heard that, you know, somebody got shot and didn't make it.
There are a lot of people benefiting off of our pain, and it's time we do something.
I'm here to unload my investment because I think that it's important that we start kind of seeing where our money is going.
It's time to go to your financial advisor and demand that there are no gun investments in your 401k.
Even if you don't have investments, you can still help spread the word.
This is something everyone can do.
So if you push your people that have 401ks, it might be your grandma, it might be your cousin, this effort can make a big impact.
I'm unloading for my loved ones that I lost.
I'm unloading for my 18-year-old self.
I'm unloading my 401k for the future of my children.
I'm unloading.
I'm unloading
for my family and their future.
I'm unloading so that my daughter can grow up in a safe, loving world.
Unload and join the movement.
Use hashtag I'm unloading to pledge your support for gun-free investing.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello. Good morning.
You know, the Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit everything.
Yeah, a little
It's
bit.
kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Drinking, random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
And our sexy liberal army of callers call in every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, you know, we try to, we're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela, you name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland.
I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show on this Tuesday, August 18th. My name is Peter Ogburn. I am sitting in for Bill Press today. What a show we have in store for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are, middle of August. It's that slow season here in Washington, D.C. And yet, there's so much stuff going on. We are all over here on the Bill Press Show. Again, my name is Peter Ogburn. Sitting in today. I sat in yesterday. This is probably going to be the last you see of me this week, okay? Everybody stand down. It's all right. Running the board for the second day. He did such a great job yesterday. We're going to let him give it a shot again. Jamie Benson. Jamie, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Peter. I'm well.
You normally hear his voice when you call our phone number, which coincidentally is 866-55-PRESS, 865-557-7377. But we have moved him up to the big board there, doing a fine job there running the 747.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you do call that phone number, you will get to talk to Ray Rogers, who is standing by to take your calls, doing a fine job in there, screening your phone calls. And if you're watching us on Free Speech TV, which is on DirecTV or Dish Network or the Roku box, or you are watching us on TawkrTV, which you can watch us at youtube.com/TAWKRTV, TawkrTV. That is because of Cyprian Bolding. Our good friend Cyprian is our videographer, and he is keeping us looking good. By the way, we have fully embraced the whole Bill is gone vibe here on the show.
100%.
So I need to own this right off the bat. I have my dog with me today. He's good. He's chilling right. He's right behind me. Weebay. He heard his name. Now he's up. We have a thing like right after the show that's like halfway between my house and work. So rather than have to go all the way home.
Wait, what do you mean a thing?
We got a doctor's thing.
Okay.
We have
a thing could be anything.
We have a play date. No, right. We have a doctor's thing. And so he just came to work with me because normally I would be like, oh God, I got to go home and get the dog and all that. But I was like, Bill's not here. What do I care?
There's no rules.
There are no rules. I'm in charge.
What if we're allergic to dogs?
I made sure to email every guest and let everyone know, hey, by the way, I'm bringing my dog in, just in case you have a problem with it. He's a puddin'. He's not going to hurt anybody. Also, he's hypoallergenic.
Wow.
Yeah, he doesn't shed.
That's some futuristic stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He's bred for the future. Also, I'm wearing shorts today, which is the first time I've ever worn shorts in the history of the show. I don't wear shorts.
Why?
As a rule.
I love wearing shorts.
I never wear shorts, which is a shame because I have phenomenal legs. But I never wear shorts.
I've never seen them, but I believe it.
Buddy.
All right.
I'll show you.
Today's the day.
I'll show you. I'll show off my gams. But we are in full summer. Bill is gone. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
But I let everybody know that I have a dog in here. Arthur Delaney and Igor Volsky, they're normally in on Tuesday. They're coming in. Igor is thrilled that I have my dog here.
We're going to have to pose the question to every guest, are they a dog or a cat person?
Yeah.
And then we'll judge
them. If they say
them.
that they're a cat person, I'll throw them right out.
Listen, I grew up with cats, but I'm both.
I have cats. I have cats and I have a dog.
I'm not going to pledge an allegiance, but I do want to ask others to pledge allegiances toward one or the other.
If I was to come home and my house was on fire and they were like, oh my God, you only have time to go in and save your dog or your cats, You coming with me, Wee Bay?
I think he'd have a better chance of surviving in general, so you're making the right choice.
Yeah, right?
You're putting too much effort in trying to save the cat.
Although it'd be hard to fireman carry him out of the building. So
that's true.
Hey, there aren't a whole lot of benefits of getting up as early as we do and working the hours that we do. And we like getting up and doing this show, but let's face it, we get up early. We get up super early.
Very early.
So we're doing the show yesterday, and all of a sudden, we get this, we start seeing these tweets. Oh, Stevie Wonder is playing a concert at 10 a.m.
What?
Right? It's like, I was like, this is clearly a joke. They call it a pop-up concert, which we may have taken the pop-up culture just a touch too far, when all of a sudden we're talking about a pop-up Stevie Wonder concert. But it's like right down the street, it's like a mile and a half from where we do the show. It's like, yeah, Stevie Wonder's doing a show. So because the show is over at 9 a.m. and because it's so close, we all were going to go down there. Cyprian and Ray, they have day jobs, right? Like they have things that they have to go do.
Lame.
Right? Yawnsville. So Jamie and I got in the car. We went down there. We saw a Stevie Wonder concert, 10 a.m. on a Monday morning.
In Washington, D.C., literally just on a grassy knoll in front of RFK Stadium. I'd say there was under 500.
It was a tiny crowd.
Not even, maybe.
It was a tiny crowd. I'd say it was a
300?
little. I'd say it was a little bit more than that.
A little more? Okay.
A little bit more than that. But it was not a lot. It was a tiny crowd. We rolled up, and you'd have to do like a little loop around where the concert was, and we're looking and we're going, that's the concert? That's like there's nobody there. And we park, and we walk in. Like right as he did, like his first song was really just like a jam.
But wait, we walk in,
buried the lead,
and they hand us a donut, and a water.
Yeah,
right. A free donut,
for free.
A Krispy Kreme donut, and a water.
Yeah, isn't that great? And a free Stevie Wonder concert. So I've seen Stevie Wonder before, many, many, many years ago when I was a much younger man. But he sounded good, right?
He sounded great. I mean, it was a little bit of warming up to do, and I think that's
was one thing.
You're that early in the morning. He probably got in the morning.
Look, you're singing Stevie Wonder songs at 10 in the morning.
Yeah,
that's a real vocal workout, man.
Yeah,
but he warmed up. He sounded really good. I thought he really got cooking there. It was a very interesting vibe, right? Because it wasn't strictly a concert. He was loose as a goose. He was chatting and carrying on conversations. He paused before he started into like his set. They did like a warm-up song, which was a little weird. And then before he launched into his set, he started talking about gun violence and said that he is pushing a new program called Claim the Bullet. Claim the Bullet, which was short on detail yesterday, but I like the idea. Where he said what he wants is for every bullet that's manufactured to basically have a user ID, right? So if you buy bullets, that bullet is tied to your name. So if you buy these bullets, they will know if this bullet ends up in somebody or in something, they'll know where it came from. They know who bought those bullets, which is an interesting idea. He paused about halfway through the concert and took some questions from local reporters. He talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. Very powerful stuff, by the way. Stevie Wonder, known for writing so many songs about love and coming together, and also writing songs as a form of social change. He talked about, every time you read one of these stories, like a Michael Brown or Walter Scott, right, where for some people they try and paint these victims as criminals, right, as thugs, or however some of these people put it. He just said, take a moment every time you read a story or hear a story about gun violence and think, what if that was my brother? What if that was my sister? What if that was my mother or my father? And really put a face on the gun violence that we have in this country today. It was powerful stuff.
Well, and I think that was like, I mean, you look around the crowd, that whole point is it could have been anyone in that crowd.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a lot of beautiful families together on a Monday morning, which was just great to see.
The kids that were there?
Including Stevie's own family came up on stage.
Stevie brought his family out. I was so happy to see the moms and dads who had their kids out there with them. Like, that's so
Yeah.
great. I got jealous that my kids were in Maryland today. We didn't have time to get them here, but what a great thing to do.
With the gentleman wearing the white tees with the King #1, Prince #1, Prince #2.
Yeah,
I
his
love
kids
that.
were wearing shirts that said Prince #1, Prince #2.
That's some family love right there.
I love that,
Yeah.
man. I love that. And it was a diverse crowd, very diverse crowd. A lot of very happy older people, right? Who had clearly grown up with Stevie, who were loving that concert, and a lot of young people. I loved it. It was a great time. It was a little hot out.
And in another programming note, he did 2 additional concerts later in the day. He did one in Philadelphia, did another one in New York City.
What a day, right?
At night, so
Isn't that
good
cool?
for Stevie.
Yeah, I love that. It's all promoting his Songs in the Key of Life tour that he's doing later on this year. He started to play another song at one point. He goes, I'm not going to play anymore. I want you to come to the big show later on in October so you can hear the rest of them. But he played a lot of good stuff. I was very, very happy with that. All right, so let's get into the news of the day. And I know it's going to sound a little familiar because we did talk about Hillary yesterday. We did talk about Biden yesterday. But we do have some new stuff. I'm going to start with Hillary because yesterday I talked about how Hillary Clinton and her email server is being investigated by the Justice Department. They're taking a look at it to see if there was any wrongdoing. And yesterday I said that the Washington Times has reported that there were 60 classified emails or instances of classified information that had been shared from Hillary Clinton's email server. And I said, that's not good. I know that there are like the process of classification is a whole thing, and how emails are classified is a whole thing. But it is a problem, right? Just the optics of it, if nothing else. So yes, and when I reported that, a lot of people said, "Oh, the Washington Times, a conservative rag, and they're just putting that out there because they want to see Hillary do poorly and all this." And that's not wrong. That's not wrong. But we have this news story. Washington Post, hardly a conservative rag. The Washington Post, their latest story shows that the potentially classified messages held in Clinton's private account have reached 305. Whoops. Yesterday, John Kirby, State Department spokesperson, in that first clip, Jamie, where he reiterates that there has been no wrongdoing yet.
At this point in the review, we haven't seen any indication that anybody did it willfully or negligent.
But that is a defense. That seems to be the defense that they're going to. And that's fair enough, but that's kind of not the point. It's not that people are... No one's saying that Hillary Clinton... I shouldn't say nobody is, because there's always somebody saying like the worst possible thing you could think of for Hillary Clinton, right? People on the other side of the aisle, boy, they can't stand her. But my point here is, I'm not saying that she is trying to hide something. I'm not saying that she was, selling state secrets or anything nefarious like that. But my point is, there was a system in place that she should have been using, and she wasn't using it. And it's sloppy. And when you are running for president and you're trying to convince the American people that you can be held accountable and that you will answer to them, which is what most voters want, right? You can't be playing secretive games like this. It's not a good look. It's just not a good look. And as I said yesterday, enter the Biden. So is Joe Biden going to get in the race? That's the real question. And again, people are saying, hey, what if Joe Biden said he was going to run, but he only ran for one term? That's an idea. It's a notion that's been kind of floated out there, probably by Biden's people. I don't love that idea, but it's an idea that they're putting out there. So now we've got this problem where the White House has their former Secretary of State, former First Lady, former Senator, Hillary Clinton, running for the White House, as she has already announced that she's doing, and the possible vice president to our current president, Joe Biden, getting into the race. And whether or not the White House will endorse, whether or not the White House thinks that this is a good idea. Some sources have said that the White House is not thrilled with the Biden run because it puts them in a weird spot, which it definitely puts them in a weird spot. But yesterday, Dan Pfeiffer, who used to be with the White House, came out and where was this? Do you remember where this was, where he said this?
This is on CNN.
On CNN. He talked about Joe Biden. He said certainly Joe Biden has earned a shot at the White House. That's that first Pfeiffer clip.
What I'm hearing from folks in the White House is that the vice president has more than earned the right to run if he decides he wants to do that.
Yeah. So he's not exactly pushing Joe Biden into the race, but then he also repeats how the White House is probably going to handle this.
The White House would take the role a White House traditionally does in a divided primary, which is they don't endorse.
So you're not going to see an endorsement in the Democratic primary.
I think that's fair. You know, it's best of both worlds, right?
I think that's more than fair. I think that's pretty much standard operating procedure for the White House. So should Biden get in, 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. I know we talked about this yesterday, but I think now more than ever we've got an argument here. And maybe not so much should Biden get in, but how damaging is this email problem for Hillary? This is going to follow her all throughout the campaign. You realize that. 305 classified emails? I think it's a problem. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. My name is Peter Ogburn. I am sitting in for Bill Press today. Very quick break. We'll be right back.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, Fred.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
Should I put the water in there now?
Yeah, go ahead. There's like some kind of chemical agent.
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me. Help me. Shoot your hands. Help me. Shoot your hands. Back away.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, dude.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Just get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy?
Yes, we are exfilling.
Actually, around 92, 94, there was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean,
like
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else. That we might be faced with. And that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Online, this is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, 26 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. 866-55-PRESS is our telephone number. 866-557-7377. Taking your calls on Hillary Clinton and how hurt she is by this email scandal. I won't say scandal. It's email situation. And whether or not Jables, Joe Biden, should get up into this race. Anita in San Antonio. Hey, Anita, how are you feeling about the Spurs coming up here?
I'm feeling good about the Spurs. I think they'll do well.
LaMarcus Aldridge, I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, I know you worked in San Antonio for a while, didn't you?
I did. I worked for the Spurs. Yes, ma'am.
Wow, that's great.
What's your take on this?
Well, once again, I think there's no story here. There's just a double standard when it comes to Hillary Clinton. And it really, there is no other candidate that has a committee that is basically doing opposition research for the RNC against Hillary Clinton. And we're paying for it. The 300 emails, this is just different departments. They have to, have different standards as far as classified information. I don't think there's any story here. They did the same thing when it came to Benghazi. Everybody jumped the gun. And it just seems to be a pattern when it comes to Hillary Clinton or both of the Clintons.
You're not wrong, Anita, about how people feel about Hillary Clinton. I know a lot of people, Republicans, conservatives, they just flat out do not like Hillary Clinton. And they're just looking for any reason at all to hate on her. But, I mean, this is what's called, in my eyes, this is an unforced error on her part, right? She didn't have to set up this private email server. She didn't have to hide her emails from people. She didn't have to cover up these emails. But she has covered up emails. She's hidden them. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. Try to take some more of your calls up next. We also have our good friend Arthur Delaney in studio. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts, but what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction, they talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, 33 minutes past the hour. It's Tuesday. So we have our good friend Arthur Delaney in studio with us. He is politics reporter for the Huffington Post and a must follow on Twitter.com. Arthur Delaney HP. Arthur, good morning. Thank you for coming in.
Good morning. Please follow me on Twitter.
Please follow him on Twitter. You've seen, I have my dog in studio today. It's a whole thing. Like, he's just wandering around the studio. I gave every guest a warning before they came in that I had to have my dog in here today. So in case anybody's freaked out, like I can lock him up somewhere.
It was unusual. Bill's not here. There's a dog here.
It's very confusing.
So what happened to Bill?
I have some breaking news on the poll front. CNN just put out a new poll of the Republican primary and how that's looking. I'll get to those in just a moment. But can we take a caller, Arthur?
Yes.
We're going to go down to my hometown of Charleston, South Carolina, and my good friend Ike. Ike, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, good morning. Well, first off, I'm really disgusted with you, Mr. Ogburn.
How's that?
Well, not only did you get to see Stevie Wonder, but you get to bring your dog to work.
It's pretty great, right? It's pretty great. When Bill's gone, man, we just kind of go nuts.
You live the life of Riley, you know, and I'm toiling in the fields out here. But getting to the Clinton issue, look, that law didn't come into effect until 2 years after she became Secretary of State. Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell both used private servers. The Bush administration had 22 emails go missing because they were using a private RNC server in the basement in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in a bank. Jeb Bush had 2 private servers while he was governor. I'll tell you what's going to happen here. This Pee Wee Herman wannabe, what's his name, Trey Gowdy? He's going to keep pounding on this, and the same thing's going to happen that happened with Isa and Benghazi. We're sick and tired of it, and we're tired of seeing the Clintons being beat on. Now, don't get me wrong. You know whose corner I stand in. I lean towards Bernie Sanders. I'm a Bernie man.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I stand with working people all over this country that says enough's enough. But when it comes right down to it, I'm going to vote for who the Democratic nominee is. But when, I'm telling you, they're reaching critical mass. This is a burnout issue, and most people that are level-headed and know how government works for most cases, we're sick and tired of hearing about it. And it's just another witch hunt, just like Whitewater and what they did to Bill. We're sick of it.
All right, Ike, I appreciate the call. He called us at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. I hear what you're saying about all the previous secretaries of state that used it and how Jeb Bush used his thing. And Scott Walker had his own whole email scandal. But I think that we gave Walker and Bush and all these other guys grief for handling their email the way that they did. So we should at least take a look at this Hillary email situation and say she probably could have done that a little bit better.
In general, I think it's helpful context if other people were doing the same thing in high-ranking government positions. But when you're saying, what about this guy and what about that guy, I call that whataboutism.
Yeah.
And I just, as a rule, it's not my favorite type of argument.
Yeah.
There's context, but I just am so mystified that Hillary Clinton walked right into this.
Yeah.
Because
that's the thing that I was saying earlier, is this is an unforced error, right? She didn't have to do this. And I'll echo what Bill said when Bill was in this chair. He says, I'm just sick and tired of having to defend the Clintons doing things that are like this, right? Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. And who knows what's going to come out of it. This might all be much ado about nothing, right? But this is going to follow her for a long time throughout the campaign, and it opens the door for criticism.
I don't think it's been overhyped if they're still figuring out what emails they need to look at and to which she's accountable.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you've misused email and there are like a billion emails. It's going to take a while to sort through. That's the whole reason everyone should have groaned that this story got started
exactly
however many months ago. And inevitably, this is what it would look like. And I don't think it's all that unfair, to be honest.
I agree. I mentioned that we have some new poll numbers. CNN put out their new poll, and we have some very interesting numbers. At the top of the poll is...
Weebay.
No, not Weebay. You really got up when you saw the name. At the top of the poll is Donald J. Trump.
Oh!
He stands alone at the top at 24%. He is... second place is Jeb Bush, who is 11 points behind him, by the way.
Yeah.
So he's still got that double-digit lead.
Now, this is a national Republican primary.
There's a national Republican primary poll. Sorry, I didn't specify.
He's also similarly crushing Jeb Bush and the other guys
on the state level.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is firmly in the lead of the Republican nomination. Other numbers off of this list, I mentioned Jeb Bush is at 13%. Ben Carson has 9%. Marco Rubio and Scott Walker both tied at 8%. Rand Paul at 6%.
Oh. Bye.
Ted Cruz, Carly Fiorina, John Kasich, all at 5%. And Mike Huckabee is at 4%. And that is your top 10. Interesting takeaway from this. Trump didn't necessarily hasn't had, in the eyes of most normal, sane thinking people, the greatest couple of weeks, right? He had the Megyn Kelly comments. He got into some hot water with a couple other things. But in this poll, the highest gainer in this poll, up 6 points since the July poll, is Donald Trump.
Well, there's a rule that's not widely followed in politics, but if you're an office holder and you're hit with a scandal, don't resign.
Yeah.
And then you won't have resigned.
Right,
You'll discover that you are still in office.
Don't resign, and with Trump, don't apologize.
Right. Don't admit.
He hasn't apologized for one thing.
Don't admit you did something wrong, and these massive gaffes are clearly not the caliber problem to bring Trump down. And myself and other people, we thought maybe he'd be flaming out by now because obviously he was going to say horrible things that would get him in trouble. And he doesn't act sorry, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because you just can keep coming back in America. Not even being an ex-con can really hold you back if you're the type of person who keeps coming. So clearly, he's going to stumble all the way through.
Let me ask you a question.
This process.
Do you think that he has a chance to go the distance for the nomination?
He does not. I do not think he has a chance of becoming the nominee, but he does have. He will go far in this process. He will go a distance.
You know, I've said this whole time, I have all the confidence in the world that Donald Trump will flame out.
I think
but now I'm starting to be like, I don't know if he's going to go all the way to the nomination, but I'm starting to think, boy, he really has tapped into something that is going to take him far. It's like I said yesterday, I know he's not going to get the nomination, but I don't believe he's going to get
He didn't flame out at this point after committing a series of awful gaffes.
Yeah.
It's going to take a few states at least.
Yeah.
And some actual losing.
Did you see how great he handled the whole Iowa thing with the helicopter, giving people rides? And he told one kid, the kid was like, wow, what is this? What is this? He's on this $21 million helicopter. And he told the kid, I'm Batman. I get to have cool toys like this.
And that's essentially also what he told to the national TV correspondents he took on his helicopter. They were like, whoa, helicopter.
Right?
Even Martha Raddatz, who's been on plenty of helicopters.
Oh yeah, there was an interesting there's an interesting thing developing here now, which may actually really scare Republicans. And that Donald Trump is not just all bluster now; he's talking policy. Hey, Jamie, can you grab that one clip about the where he talked about the undocumented workers? Because his plan on Sunday, as he laid out on Meet the Press, is just get rid of all of them. Get everybody out, including their family members. He was asked about this again yesterday.
It's going to be very easy. You just watch.
How to get them out. That's how you get them out. What's your plan to get them out? He goes,
it's going to be very easy. You just watch.
You just watch. That's the plan.
That's what he said, because when you think about it for 1 second, you imagine it would not be easy.
Right. No.
So he just says the opposite of the problematic, obvious thing. And everyone's like, oh, helicopter.
Yeah.
He flies his helicopter out of the question.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, we've got a lot more stuff to talk about, including a crazy story about your colleague, Ryan Riley, and Wesley Lowery from the Washington Post. You did some great writing on their situation, which we will tell you all about after this quick break. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today, Tuesday, August 18th, with Athan Delaney from the Huffington Post. Stay tuned, won't you?
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. what they're good at. In general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 47 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today on this Tuesday, August 18. Joined by politics reporter for the Huffington Post, Arthur Delaney. Arthur, thank you for coming in.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about a piece that you wrote for the Huffington Post that was very prominently featured on the front page yesterday with a phenomenal headline. The charges against Ryan Riley and Wesley Lowery are so dumb. It's true. They are so dumb.
They're dumb.
This all stems from the situation a year ago where they were arrested in a McDonald's in Ferguson, and they were released and no charges were filed until last week.
They were released
like literally a year ago.
They were released in a matter of hours because people were like, why'd you arrest 2 reporters in a McDonald's? That's dumb.
So tell me why the charges are so dumb, which I agree with you, but for people who aren't familiar.
Well, my assessment of the charges, at first blush, they're dumb already.
Yeah.
But this is based on a reading of their 33-page investigative report that the police put together sometime after the fact, describing what went down in the McDonald's. Mm-hmm. And this is where you will learn that these charges are profoundly dumb. They're not just dumb on a superficial, obvious level. And the document... And
dumb to the core.
The document talks about what's going on, and it says that the new Black Panthers were in town, that anarchists and communists were there, and their misbehavior in the McDonald's directly contributed. The misbehavior of the reporters, who were the only people in the McDonald's, directly contributed to this period of civil unrest.
Whoa!
So this was after they had killed Michael Brown, who was unarmed, and pointed their sniper rifles at people in broad daylight.
Yeah, and brought literal tanks out into the streets of Ferguson.
Right, so they themselves, there was an escalating anger at them for the killing, and then it seemed to most observers that what they were doing in response to the occasionally violent protests was making everything even worse, because this is a police brutality outrage, and they were piling more police overreaction on top of that. So anyway, they go into the McDonald's and they're establishing a skirmish line outside, and they hear all these groups are in town, and they believe things are going to get worse. So they tell the McDonald's, you should close, and they they come back and they say, okay, well, now we want you to close even faster, and we need your customers to leave. And they claim that the manager at the McDonald's requested their assistance in getting the customers out. And so they tell Ryan Riley and Wesley Lowery, who are customers and who are using the McDonald's as a base of operations.
Yeah.
You know, you can plug in, you get Wi-Fi, and they can file their stories. And Wesley Lowery and Ryan Riley didn't say, no, we won't go. They started packing up. And these cops in riot gear are going, no, go now, faster. And they don't go fast enough. And that's what it says in the document, that Mr. Riley was moving his belongings about in an inefficacious manner. So Officer McCann packed his bag for him. And then he arrested him. And
it's insane. It's crazy. And the thing is, we can talk about this and we can have this conversation because these are reporters and they can bring this out into the light.
Yes.
Right? But imagine how many people are getting totally screwed by charges like this.
Yeah, so maybe it's understandable. The police were upset. They're worried about what's going on. These reporters aren't moving fast enough. So they arrested them. So they let them go.
Right.
And that could have been the end of it.
Right.
And that was essentially an editorial in the Washington Post. And fine.
Yeah.
So they thought about it for almost an entire year.
Yeah.
And the statute of limitations is approaching. And they're like, we got to get this.
Got to do something.
We got to get these trespassing charges out.
That thing that's long gone and far in the past, we need to bring that up again.
And so they brought just waves of criticism on themselves from everybody. It's unanimous.
What happens to them now?
They're going to have a hearing. It had been scheduled for next week. It might be postponed. And another question, other reporters, will other people be getting charged? Is this just something they're getting to after they arrested all these people and they're trying to beat the statute of limitations? But it's not going. Nothing that happens now will change the fact that this was dumb.
Yeah. It's just dumb. We're going to tweet out a link to your piece. The charges against Ryan Riley and Wesley Lowery are so dumb.
Yeah, and the Washington Post, the Huffington Post have all put out statements. Ryan and Wesley have been talking about it publicly.
Oh, yeah. We had Wesley on the morning after the charges were this was announced. And
another thing, I didn't include this
it.
in the piece, but they talk about how after the fact, Ryan Riley tweeted that he had just been arrested, and they said, we seized the tweet and sent it to the evidence locker where it will be stored as evidence. So they printed out the tweet, I guess, and everyone was laughing about that. But basically, this is dumb, and we'll be fighting it as forcefully as we can legally, and we'll be writing about it.
Yeah,
truthfully.
As well you should. So quick thing, we got about 45 seconds before we have to hit a break, but I wanted to ask you about one of your latest pieces, because you wrote a great piece about how Donald Trump is basically Biff from Back to the Future, and you have a new piece called White Men Can't Trump.
Yes.
Tell me about this this movie series you've been working on with Donald Trump.
Well, it's just that Trump is so outside the expectations.
He's
of
almost
political reporters.
unbelievable.
He's unbelievable. So we've been looking to fiction and to movies for ways that we can explain what's happening.
Yeah.
And those are two movies that have been helpful so far. And if our Bill Press listening audience has additional suggestions, please let me know.
Tweet at Arthur Delaney HP. Please send him your suggestions there, okay? All right, Arthur, thank you as always for coming in. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
You got it. All right, Arthur Delaney from the Huffington Post. My name is Peter Ogburn. A quick break, and we'll be right back.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
and more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn. I have a confession to make. I have a weakness for spirits. I do enjoy a good drink. And there's this new app called Bar Roulette that I will absolutely not be downloading. This sounds like a nightmare. It uses Yelp and Uber, and you open this app up, and you click on it, and it sends an Uber to take you to a randomly selected bar in your area.
Nope.
How about absolutely not? How about never in a million years am I going to let a bunch of Gindaloons off of Yelp figure out where I'm going to go have a drink? Hard pass. Absolutely not. And I love bars. I love bad bars. I love crappy, divey, disgusting, you might get punched in the face bars. But I'm never in a million years am I going to just let some rando pick a bar for me. No. I like what I like. Bar Roulette. Burn it. As far as I'm concerned. Burn your phone if you've got this on it. Hey, Igor Volsky is up next here on the Bill Press Show. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. Been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we've took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show. 6 minutes past the hour here on this Tuesday, August 18th. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Bill's out all week. Elisa Murphy is out all week. So we're going to do whatever the hell we want to do this week.
Freedom.
I'm so liberated.
Finally.
I'm so liberated. We've moved Jamie Benson over to the board. He's running the board this
Looks
week.
so comfortable there.
He's done a great job.
Hey there.
Considering
Thanks.
how much I saw him drinking before the show started this morning.
It is surprising, yeah.
He's doing a great job in there on the board. He knows I'm kidding. He's doing a great job in there on the board. Jamie has a real job, and like he's still got like. He can't be out there doing dumb stuff like I do, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it has to be responsible.
he has to be a responsible.
Yeah.
Jamie has 4 more days of his real job.
Yeah, Jamie's got a real job.
And that's it after
he
that.
He can't be having people calling him a drunk on air. He's not a drunk. Yeah.
I mean, depends how you define drunk.
That's
but
true.
Based on our definition, not a drunk.
If you call 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377, you will talk to Ray Rogers, who is standing by to take your call. And Cyprian Bolding is our videographer. He is hard at work, and they're keeping us live and direct on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Bill and Elisa are both gone. I brought my dog Weebay in.
Yes, you did.
Is he the best?
Yes, Weebay is the best.
I knew you'd be excited to see
And
Weebay.
throughout this whole interview, I'll be petting Weebay.
Well, it's like, he's sort of a love hogger, so he like runs up to the guests and he just kind of just parks.
It's remarkable.
Next to them, and he loves what you're doing right now.
I mean,
So
I feel like
you've got a friend for life.
You know, the TawkrTV audience is really benefiting. This is Doggy Cam and politics
Doggy Cam.
early in the morning. It's really the best thing you can watch right
I
now.
love it. Look at him. Look how happy he is. Oh, the best.
Oh.
I also wore shorts today for the first
You
time in
did?
the history of the show.
Oh, wow.
I never
Is this
wear
a
shorts.
historic moment?
I'm notoriously anti-short.
Oh, what happened?
I just
You felt safe with me. I feel so honored. Thank you. Wow, look at those legs. They've never seen the sun.
Look how white.
Those legs.
First of all, I got good legs.
Yeah, oh,
I do have good legs.
I was going to say,
I do have good legs. Look at those. Look at those cans.
Wow.
You kidding me?
Oh, wow.
Well, they are white as a ghost.
Pasty white.
They are white as a ghost. These legs are practically translucent. I'm telling you.
Oh, my.
So I think I got to let him get out.
Look at you.
Little sunlight.
Bill leaves and oh my.
Yeah, right?
All kinds of things go down.
Yeah. And flop-flops, by the way.
Oh,
Not even
wow.
shoe, not even closed toes.
Wow. It's like on vacation.
Yeah. Stay away, Bill. We're having a great time. Now, Bill's not on the West Coast, or I'm sure he would have already called me to yell at me by now. But he's still asleep. Speaking of the West Coast, did you see this earthquake?
I heard about this.
How about that for a segue?
Yeah, that's... Oof.
There was an earthquake out in California yesterday. I love when these earthquakes happen, and this is in the Oakland area, and the media types are already on air, right? Like when the earthquake happens and they have to call it live. Like there was a guy not that long ago who was like, "We're having an earthquake.
Get under your desk. He
got under his desk.
Yeah.
And he lowered down and got under his desk. Yesterday, this is a guy named Steve Paulson from KTVU in Oakland when the earthquake hit. This is only a 4.0, which to us would be huge, but to Oakland it's like,
meh.
Yeah, right. That's nothing.
Be it Mount Amana, Mount Diablo, you name it. Everyone was obscured. Oh my gosh, we're having an earthquake.
There it is.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is a good one. All right.
That was a good one.
That was a big one. That was a big one.
That was a big one.
9 a.m.
6:49. That was a big one.
That was pretty smoothly handled.
Yeah,
I have to
oh my
say.
goodness.
Yeah.
Like if
He was so calm.
If an earthquake
Cool as cucumber.
hit while I'm here,
oh God!
Thank goodness we have an 8-second delay. Because honestly, a string of expletives that might actually go longer than 8 seconds may come out of my mouth, and we may just have to shut the whole show down. Like if an earthquake popped right this second, could you imagine?
It's all over.
Yeah, I would not be going. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is a big one. Yep, that's an earthquake. Yep, that's an earthquake. No.
That's a biggie.
Yeah.
That's a
Lord Jesus, no! Here he comes! He's coming back! I would freak out. I would Fred Flintstone out of the studio so fast.
What about Weebay?
Well, Weebay,
Would you just leave
Sorry,
Weebay?
collateral damage.
Oh my God!
Sorry, buddy.
With the fire earlier, you were going to save him. You're not going to save him from the earthquake?
If I had to save a dog or a cat, I'd save Weebay.
Weebay,
but
I'll
if there's an
take you.
earthquake, no. Head for Z Hills. It's every man, woman, and dog for himself. I'm gone. I am gone. Anyway. Oh, there it is. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
It's a big one.
That is a big one. That is a big
6:39, we just had an earthquake.
Yeah, coming up, we got traffic and weather together on the 10s. And if you just tuned in, we are currently experiencing an earthquake.
It's a doozy.
I'm doing fine. I clearly have no problem with this. Oh, my goodness. Okay. All right, so we're not going to do a full court press because I'm over on this side of the microphony. So let's just jump right into the news of the day. You, Igor, I should give your official title: Director of
Please.
Video, Contributing Editor.
People are
Think
wondering.
Progress. Igor Volsky, a must-follow, by the way, on Twitter. Igor Volsky at Igor Volsky. You put out this great video. I think Progress. You're putting out a series of great videos, by
Thank
the way.
you.
This is wonderful work. Short videos. To just like give you everything you need to know about a specific topic, and you did a very interesting video about flibanserin.
Flibanserin. Now, you may
Who
have
is
heard of
flibanserin?
it. Who is flibanserin? You may have heard of it as the female Viagra, and it's something that drug companies have been trying to develop for the last 15 years, ever since we've had the male enhancement drugs of Cialis and Viagra. Drug companies thought, well, we need something like this for women, because why not? And this is going to be the first time in the coming days, either today or tomorrow, that the Federal Drug Administration is preparing to approve the first ever sexual desire drug for women called flibanserin.
So this is the female Viagra
The female
that everyone's been
Viagra,
talking about.
so-called. Now, it's great news because there are some women. The estimates about 8 to 9% of women do suffer from lack of sexual desire. And at the hearing for flibanserin, you had all these women come to the mics and say, it's a real problem we're having. It's causing some real barriers in our marriages. We're talking about divorce in some cases because we can't have a satisfying sexual relationship with our husband. Now, the problem, though...
Well, this all sounds positive, right?
This all sounds positive,
right,
yeah.
It's a man's world.
It's
we
a man's
know that,
world, and,
right?
finally,
So
there's
these
going to be
women-
this drug for women.
We're living in this great time where women are able to embrace and own their sexual empowerment.
That's right.
And the fact that we can have these conversations about this is great.
And you
right?
had-
Isn't this a great drug?
It
Right? Isn't
sounds
this
like
wonderful?
it. Yeah, you had women's groups out there saying that finally there's going to be a gender equity in how the FDA approves those drugs. Because again, there's all these Cialis and Viagras and everything else for men and nothing for women. Sounds great. But turns out that flibanserin, or the so-called female Viagra, isn't at all what they want you to think it is.
Oh, dear.
And the reason is they ran clinical trials on this drug. Now, first of all, it's nothing like Viagra. So you take Viagra, blood rushes to your penis, you're set.
Yeah.
You take flibanserin.
So let's talk about it's a man's world.
It's a man's world. Boom.
Flip a switch.
Boom. Flip a
You're
switch.
good.
Flibanserin doesn't work like that at all. It tries to convince the brain to have sex, to desire sex. And for you to have some kind of impact, for it to work on you as a woman, you have to take flibanserin every day at night.
Oh.
You have to get off your birth control.
Oh.
You have to stop drinking alcohol. Oh. You have to stop all sorts of medications. And maybe over the course of 6 months, 8 to 13% of women in the clinical trial had a 0.5% increase in sexual desire, meaning that over the course of a month, they had a what many would characterize as a modest
are stunning
increase in sexual desire. And of course, it was studied on a very small group of women, so only heterosexual women.
Oh.
In a monogamous relationship for over a year. And the fear is that this drug is going to be marketed as the next female Viagra, mass marketed to all kinds of folks who it hasn't been studied on. And then, of course, the adverse effects, which are fainting, sleepiness. If you're driving a car and you faint, it becomes a big problem.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. And you'll see...
And it depends on how bad the sex is while you're driving.
Oh, there you go. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Sorry.
Interesting car rides you take, Peter. To and from the show. But listen. And so that's the real worry, is that the FDA, who has been pressured by the drug manufacturer in a PR campaign that they funded called Even the Score, which makes all of these arguments about finally there's going to be, gender balance in the way these drugs are approved, that it's going to approve the drug not because of the science behind it, because it rejected the drug twice before already, that it came before the FDA, and they said, no, it's not effective enough. This third time around, the drug company didn't produce any new effectiveness data, but what they did launch was this public relations campaign called Even the Score. They got about a bunch of women's groups on board, and now it looks like it's headed towards
I hate this
approval.
story. This is a terrible story.
It's sad.
It seems like we've all become such suckers for marketing, and we're really messing around here with people's health. The thing with the numbers of all the things you have to give up, to try this drug, which maybe will help you a little bit. It's crazy.
It's crazy, and we don't even...
How are they running away with this? How is this getting out there?
Well, it's getting out there because the panelists, so the way the FDA works is there's this advisory committee that sometimes advises the FDA on new drugs. And the advisory committee that recommended approval said, look, we really wish this was a better drug. This has a lot of adverse effects. It has very minimal impacts, beneficial impacts. But we feel that because it's the very first drug in its class, that we're going to recommend it. But we would strongly suggest very strong restrictions on the drug. So there's all these kinds of ways that the government can try to restrict pharmacies and doctors and who and how the drug is prescribed. In theory, there are all these ways, but in practice, once a drug gets into the marketplace, it's kind of a free-for-all. And when you have the kind of direct marketing that you're going to have for this drug on television and everywhere else, it's going to be very hard to ensure that those kinds of controls that the panelists recommended, that they're actually followed.
I'm strictly going to play devil's avocado on this next question for a moment.
Please.
Is there any benefit to getting this drug out there so that other people can take a look at it and improve on it and make it better? And the way that a lot of medicines have become like over-the-counter drugs and turned into highly effective.
And some of the people we spoke to, that was their argument, that this is the first drug.
I mean, it's not a great argument, by the way.
Well, it's to say that it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. A lot of drugs that have a lot of problems get out into the marketplace, and then drug companies have the financial interest and the financial incentive to improve upon them because now there's a baseline and they can build on that foundation. But the question is, for this drug, do the risks outweigh the benefits, or do the benefits outweigh the risks? And if the risks to the general population are so much higher than the very small benefits, then that risk benefit profile, that kind of scale doesn't really work, and can do more harm than good.
We'll tweet out. We tweeted out at the end of last week. We'll tweet out again a link to the video so you can go check it out and get all the facts. Great work being done by Igor Volsky, director of video and contributing editor at Think Progress. We're going to take a quick break so that we leave ourselves plenty of time for the next segment where we can talk about Donald J.
Finally, things that matter.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Peter Ogburn sitting in for Bill Press today, along with Igor Volsky. See you on the other side of this break.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show, 24 minutes past the hour. I should point out that Igor brought in some munchkins for me.
Oh, yes.
Actually the best. I love that. So much to talk about. Igor Volsky, director of video, contributing editor at Think Progress. Go follow their great work at thinkprogress.org and follow him on Twitter at Igor Volsky, a must follow on Twitter. Always good stuff coming out of there, and you get to see all the great videos that Igor is working on, and a fine TV host, I might add, on your videos. You do a great job there.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, right. And he's also a friend of Bill. You see him hosting this show often. He does a great job there as well.
And friend of Weebay.
And friend of Weebay.
Let's not forget.
That's the most important thing. So, a little bit of breaking news this morning. The latest CNN poll popped, and it shows that Donald Trump is Donald J. Trump is firmly at the top of the Republican list of potential candidates. Donald Trump, 24%. Second place is Jeb Bush with 13%.
Oh, Jeb. Oh.
Still an 11-point lead that Trump has over the closest competitor. He is the biggest gainer in the poll, too. He climbed 6 points since the one that they did in July. And he has surged since the Republican debate. Like, his numbers just are on a steady incline after the debates. You know, the one where everyone thought that he did a pretty terrible job. That's just the power of
Wow. Who knew that
Donald
getting
J.
into a
Trump.
fight with Megyn Kelly and Fox News is the key to success among Republican primary voters?
Here's what I keep saying. There's still not a doubt in my mind that Donald Trump will flame out at some point.
Yeah. It's the summer.
But I'm starting
Summer
to think
lovin'.
to myself, what if he doesn't? Right? Like, what is it that's going to actually take him down? The McCain stuff,
We all thought
numbers
that's
went up.
it. Yeah.
I didn't, by the way.
Oh,
I knew that
oh.
would help him. Numbers went up.
Pundit Pro,
Yeah,
Peter.
that's what I'm telling you. The Megyn Kelly stuff, numbers went up. What's it going to take?
Look, I guess the appeal is, and I understood this after watching him at the debate, is that he comes across as a real, genuine guy who doesn't follow the rules, and people love that. And it's the same thing for Bernie. I mean, they're not comparable in any way, except for Bernie comes across as this authentic, everyday man just trying to make the country a better place. And clearly, across party lines, that's what voters are looking for. And Trump represents that in the extreme. Now, I still think that we had these kinds of summer flings with candidates in the past. Certainly Michelle Bachmann, who won the Iowa straw poll. You look back to 2008, 2004, you'll see similar surges of candidates. Howard Dean, for instance, who looked so promising in the summer, but come the fall and when the policy really becomes more of a factor, not only policy, but electability is on the voters' minds. They'll think, who can win, who can become president, and that's not Trump.
We've got like 20 seconds left, but when you talk about the electability thing, are the people who are supporting Donald Trump right now aware that he's not electable?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to imagine that anyone really believes that you could have Donald Trump in the White House running our country, representing our country to the world. This is just a fling, a romance. It's going to flame out, but for now, it certainly made this campaign very, very interesting.
All right, Igor, always great stuff. Igor Volsky
Thank
from
you.
Think Progress, thinkprogress.org, and follow him on Twitter at Igor Volsky. Thank you so much. A fine job again, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We will see you next week, if not sooner. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I could just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earth-alleluia.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show. It's 33 minutes past the hour. Hi there. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm filling in for Bill Press today. We got a great third hour of the show coming up. We've already had a great hour and a half. We've got some good stuff coming up. Our good friend Molly O'Toole from Defense One is coming in studio. And a big decision from the Obama White House yesterday. They're opening up Arctic drilling again. This is an issue that has divided naturalists and people who pay attention to the environment. So we're talking to our good friend from the Sierra Club, Athan Manuel, is going to be joining us on the phone in the next hour to get all the facts on that. But we could talk about Hillary. We could talk about Trump. We could talk about Biden. All about that stuff. I'm going to go away from politics for just a moment because I saw this story that really caught my eye the other day. As a parent of two boys, I saw this story about, and this is going to be about sports, but it's not really about sports. So everybody just chill out. Everything's fine. We're not going to do a whole sports story here, okay? But James Harrison, you know who James Harrison is.
I do.
All right. Football player. hard-nosed football player, known for being a hard-nosed football player, he put this post up on Facebook over the weekend. And I'm going to read it to you verbatim. Quote, I came home to find out that my boys received 2 trophies for nothing, participation trophies. While I'm very proud of my boys for everything they do and will encourage them till the day I die, these trophies will be given back until they earn a real trophy. I'm sorry I'm not sorry for believing that everything in life should be earned, and I'm not about to raise 2 boys to be men by making them believe that they are entitled to something just because they tried their best. Because sometimes your best is not enough. And that should drive you to want to do better, not cry and whine until somebody gives you something to shut you up and keep you happy. Hashtag Harrison Family Values. Now, as I said, I'm a parent of 2 boys. Neither one of them are particularly good at sports, by the way. And that's fine. I don't push them to play sports. They're both very smart, creative kids. They have talents off the field, right? But I'm not so disillusioned as to think that my kids have to be great at sports, to be worth something. So we don't push. Right? We give them the opportunities. We let them try things out. We see what they like. Gray, my oldest, he played we tried everything, by the way. We tried some baseball. Tried the soccer stuff. Magnus is about to start wrestling. Gray did a little basketball, and he was pretty good at basketball. He wasn't great, but he was pretty good at basketball. But here's my point. What's wrong with participation trophies? Like, if you really think about what we're doing here, right? We're talking about children, right? We're trying to form their little mushy brains into having an opinion, having a take on what they like, what they enjoy, what gets them high, like where they get their enjoyment, where they get their pleasure from, right? And so bonding with these teammates and getting out there and getting some exercise, if you got to throw them a participation trophy to get them excited about doing it before they realize that it's all about crushing your fellow man and hearing the lamentations of their women. That's a fairly grown-up thought that James Harrison is trying to shove onto his boys. I think it's terrible parenting. I think it's terrible, terrible parenting. And shame on James Harrison for trying to turn his little boys into men.
It's just too aggressive.
Right?
Like, I get the whole competition thing and it molding you as a man or woman growing up. But if you're taking that hard of a stance, as in you're going to take those trophies away,
right?
The lesson's gone.
So look, I would rather have my kids go out and have a fun time and get a little exercise with their friends than come away with some feeling of superiority over some other kids. They're kids. They can't play sports anyway. You ever gone out to see like a bunch of 6-year-olds play soccer? Oh boy.
Yeah, there's no 10-year-olds playing for the Chicago Bulls.
Right. It's the most disorganized, dumb thing you've ever seen. But it's great. Like, they're having the time of their lives, right? Or even, older, like when mine was like 9 years old playing basketball. Terrible. It's like fruit basket turnover out there. Everybody rolling around. No one knows how to dribble. And nobody can pick and roll to save their lives. No. Get off the court. Get on the bench until you can learn a solid pick and roll. But it's like they're having a good time. So this hardline stance about, I'm going to take away their trophies until they learn to, until they can compete and actually win something. Now, this is clearly like one incident. I was talking about this because it's happened over the weekend. I was talking about this over the weekend with my neighbor. I don't talk to my neighbors much. Right, like as you can imagine, I don't like other people in general. It's just kind of like I put that force field up, and it's like just stay away from me. Right, like if I get to know my neighbors too well, they get a little too comfortable.
Yeah, right? You'd have a stop and chat every morning. Yeah, right. You don't have a time for stop and chat every morning.
Head down, beeline from my car to the front door, baby.
I'm with you.
Boom. I don't want to know these people. But I know a couple of them that don't live like right next to me, and they're good people. We were talking about this, and he's got kids. He was like, good for James Harrison, man. Kids got to learn a lesson. You go out there, you're playing to win. I mean, are we really teaching our kids you got to go out there to play to win? 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Or am I just being the squishy liberal who is like, I'm fine with my kids getting a participation trophy. I have no problem with it at all. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. My name is Peter Ogren. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Lots of good show ahead. Stay tuned.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
The Bill Press Show, almost 44 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogren, sitting in for Bill Press today. We're talking not sports, but about your kids and how they play sports. James Harrison, linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, hard-nosed football player, wrote a Facebook post talking about how his kids both got participation trophies for the sports they were playing in, and he took them away from the kids because they didn't win anything. Like, what's the lesson you're trying to teach them? You know, kids are not that stupid, by the way. I should point that out, right? Like, when I was playing, I played basketball. Basketball was my sport, right? I was decent at basketball. I said it. I had some up and downs. some ups and downs, but I was better more than I was bad. I was good more than I was bad. But my point is, I was on some bad teams when I was coming up, and I knew that we were bad. And I gladly took the participation trophy when I was younger because it was exciting. It got me excited to keep playing basketball. Like, even if we didn't have a great season or a great team, as a kid, those things are cool, man. So why would you want to take that incentive away? And Cyprian, during the break, said, you play the game to win the game. And I don't disagree with that. But sometimes, things are out of your control. You don't get on a good team or whatever. It's still nice to be able to take away a participation trophy when you are a kid. But maybe I'm just being a squish. So I turn to you at 866-55-PRESS. 866-557-7377. That's our phone number. Let's go to Lisa in Asheville, North Carolina, listening on 880 The Revolution. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, morning, guys. How you doing?
I'm well. What's your take on this? Am I crazy? Am I being too squishy?
No, you are not crazy. And yes, you play a game to win. The ultimate goal is to win, and that's the whole nature of a sport. But there's so many other factors that you can take away from it, especially as a kid. My son just turned 5 in July. He's starting kindergarten on Thursday, and he has taken he's just naturally drawn to baseball. Mm-hmm. I've never played sports. My husband didn't play baseball. He's just found it on his own, and he likes it, and it's something we can all enjoy together.
Yeah.
So I signed him up for T-ball last spring through the Y here, through the local Y, and they had 12 kids sign up. Nobody would volunteer to coach. 12, 4 and 5-year-olds, all excited to play T-ball. So me, with a theater degree.
Coach Lisa.
Okay, I'll do it.
Coach Lisa, get after it.
Let me tell you, number one, for me, one of the best experiences I've ever had, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my kid. It was fantastic. And all the parents came in kind of with the mindset of, my kid's going to be running around picking dandelions and doing whatever. Well, I'll tell you, these kids, they focused and paid attention and were so interested, just genuinely wanted to know what they were doing and why they were doing it, that I was pleasantly surprised at how into it they were. And of course they were goofing off and everything. They're 4 and 5 years old. But they, when they did something right, and we talked about teamwork and we focused on that and cheering each other on, and that, we're not always going to win, but there's other things to take away from it. I will tell you that out of our entire season, every single game we played, not one of my players at any point in time asked me if they won.
Nice. I love that call, Lisa. And look, you're absolutely right. I've done some coaching when my kids were experimenting with sports. I coached some soccer. I was never a great soccer player, but I did play. I helped out with there. I helped out with the basketball coaching. It is such a rewarding thing, and you really learn a lot about your kids and what they like, right? Like why they get into these things, why they get into these sports. And I think, I don't want to heap a ton of criticism on James Harrison. I think he's being a bad parent here, which I know is a pretty heavy criticism to lob at somebody. But if he is concerned that he's going to raise children that feel entitled, right? Like you participate and therefore you win. That's a real concern. I don't think that just because you participate in something means that you need to be made to feel like you won, right? Like you win because you succeed. You do well. You have beaten everybody else. You have crushed your enemies before you and heard the lamentations of their women, to quote Conan the Barbarian. But if we're really talking about taking trophies away from little kids, from the sports that they play, you might be taking it a little too seriously. Leave the kids alone, for crying out loud. Let them have their stupid participation trophies. It makes them happy. And that participation trophy will probably make them happier to get back in to the sports, into the sport when it comes back around again next season, or to explore other sports to get more trophies. My mom still has my trophies from when I was in 4th grade playing basketball. And we didn't win. I didn't start winning until I really hit my growth spurt in junior high. But she still has them. They meant something to me. I love those trophies.
I have theater trophies. I won't get into that. But
do you really?
We used to compete.
Wait, theater competitions?
Yeah. Yeah, one-act festivals.
Were you any good?
I was pretty good.
Yeah?
You stage in one act. We were a theater powerhouse in our little town in Maine.
But you got participation trophies, or you got you won the trophies?
No, we would win. But we'd also get, participation, whatever, plaques, stuff like that.
I guess my point is that, it's not a terrible thing to say, thank you very much for trying. Thank you very much for putting your best foot forward. Here's a little something, right? I don't think that's crazy. Jessica in Dallas, Texas. Hey, Jessica, what's happening?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, my darling. Thank you for calling.
You are so welcome.
Listen to that voice on Jessica. I can listen to you read the phone book, Jessica.
Thank you.
My goodness. What's your take?
But I have to tell you, I work with families, and I don't think that what he's doing makes him a bad dad. It may make him unpopular, but it doesn't make him a bad dad, because many times I think what it's important to consider is what the underlying message is. Some people are able to say, hey, it's okay to participate, and they take that further with their children, and they grow with their children. So they explain to them, yes, you can, it's okay, you get rewarded for participating here, but they're still able to help their children learn how to accept defeats and failures. I think sometimes we do get a little too caught up in being and wanting to make children feel that the world is a little bit different. I don't want to say that we don't want to make the world feel, that we don't want to teach them that the world is safe and that they can manage through it. But sometimes the trophy may be taking it back if that's what he chooses to do. We don't know how else he supports and encourages his children. So I wouldn't be so quick to say that that makes him a bad dad. I've worked with parents who were very doting, and they really missed the boat on a lot of other areas. So I don't know that this one instance is an issue of bad parenting.
I hear you, Jessica. Thank you for the call. I appreciate that. She called 866-55-PRESS. If you have a phone number to agree or disagree with me on this, here's where I'm coming from. I've seen those dads, and let's face it, it's almost always dads, right, who are screaming at their kid and yelling at them about what they're doing wrong and what they got to do right to win. You got to do this if you want to win. And, on the sidelines, shouting over their coaches, right, who kind of know what they're doing. And these people just, they're rabid. They're practically rabid with their children. And James Harrison strikes me as that kind of dad. Oh, you got a participation trophy? Nah, I'm taking that back. You're gonna win. You're gonna win first. We don't have any participants in this family. We're winners. I know that dad. I've seen that dad. I don't like that dad. I think that dad's a bad parent. 866-55-PRESS is my phone number. We're going to take a quick break. We got lots of good stuff coming up. My name's Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. Lots and lots and lots of good stuff still coming up in the third hour of the program. Make sure you're watching us, youtube.com/TawkrTV. TAWKR-TV, by the way. Hey, this movie came out this past weekend, Straight Outta Compton. It's a movie I want to see very, very badly. I'm not sure if I'm going to see it in the theater. I probably will. But boy, what a huge opening it had. $60.2 billion. Million. Sorry.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
$60.2 million it brought in the box office. That is bigger than they estimated it would make. More than they estimated it would make. It's the highest R-rated opening in August of all time. Huge movie.
And it's got incredible reviews. It's got like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I mean, I'm not sure where we're going to end up in the Oscar categories here, but like maybe we do, maybe we don't. It looks like a good movie. And it's great that we're like telling stories like this that I'd way rather see more than like a lot of these other crappy movies that they're putting out there. But you know what really bugged me is I saw this CNN headline the other day, yesterday. Said, Straight Outta Compton, long lines, no violence. Guys, just because the movie is about a rap group doesn't mean that violence is going to spontaneously burst out in the theater. Just because there will be a lot of black people going to see this movie doesn't mean that there's going to be violence. By the way, look at all the theater shootings we've had. Look like white people to me. All right, that's it for the second hour. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll be back with Molly O'Toole from Defense One. She joins us in studio. My name is Peter Ogburn. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night. And I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. it has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show on this Tuesday, August 18th. Clearly, I am not Bill Press. I am Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. It's vacation week here on The Bill Press Show for everyone but me and Jamie and Sip. Everybody just took off. Bill's gone. Elise is gone. So I'm hosting. Jamie Benson is running the board.
Good morning.
Doing a fine job running the board. We sort of threw you into the deep end there yesterday. You're doing a great job.
It was a deep dive.
It was a deep dive.
But now
you're keeping your head above water, sir.
Yeah.
And then some.
I'm floating.
If you call 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377, the voice you will hear on the other end of the line is that of Ray Rogers, who is standing by to take your call. And, of course, we are streaming live video on youtube.com/TawkrTV. Thanks to Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, who is keeping us on the air and looking so good this morning. Joining us is Molly O'Toole. She's politics reporter for Defense One. Hi, Molly.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well. You can read her good work at defense1.com and follow her on Twitter at Molly M. O'Toole. A must-follow on Twitter. All good things there. It's kind of like full vacation mode here. Right? Like, I'm in shorts. I never wear shorts to work. I brought my dog in.
Someone should have given me the memo here.
I know, right? You look way more dressed up than you should be for today's show. Weebay, my dog, is a golden doodle, and he has a vet appointment later on today. And I got to go basically straight from work to the vet. This would be way easier than like driving home and getting him and all that stuff. So he's here with me at work, which I would probably not do if Bill was here.
We're also going to ask him his opinions on the Islamic State.
He has some very, very strong opinions.
Yes.
Yeah, very strong opinions. On all of those matters. So, like, if you do hear, he's been good. He hasn't barked. He just basically just kind of floats between me and Molly. He'll float between you, and then he'll just get tired of both of our garbage, and he'll just go lay down. Right? This is the cycle we've been on all morning long. So he's a very chill dog. And so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, see, here he goes. Hey, buddy. You just got back from Iowa, right?
I did.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No,
I shouldn't. People got mad at me because I talked smack about Iowa.
It was a great time. I had a wonderful time. It was my first real state fair.
Okay.
And that was an exciting experience for me. And
I have to ask.
Sorry.
What did you eat?
You know, I was running around so much that I didn't eat as much as I would have liked.
Okay.
I had sort of a checklist of things on a stick that I wanted to knock
lots
out.
of stick foods.
But the only thing I ate on a stick was a corn dog. But I got to tell you, probably the best corn dog of my life.
I mean, if you're going to get a corn dog, Iowa's got to nail that, right?
Oh, yeah. It was fantastic. I rewarded myself at the end with a funnel cake.
Oh, beautiful.
That was also great. Had some of my colleagues' apple pie on a stick.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
I went to a couple of years ago when the Republican convention was in Minneapolis, or it was in St. Paul, I should say. And it was right when we got there. We went from Denver, where the Democratic convention was, and I went straight to St. Paul. So I was on the road for 2 weeks. And I got to St. Paul early, and it happened to be the weekend
of the state fair.
Of the Minnesota State
Right.
Fair, which is insane.
Right.
It's
also
insane.
gigantic. The true story is that I've had one state fair before this, and it was Minneapolis, but
Okay.
I got really sick
dear.
at the state fair, so I really don't count it because it wasn't quite
Doesn't count.
the same.
Because if you don't get
experience.
to go and experience all things fried and on
Right.
a stick,
Right.
it doesn't count. Did you get to see Donald Trump in his big helicopter?
So it was interesting because I was following around Hillary Clinton that morning, Saturday morning at the Iowa State Fair, and you gotta hand it to the man. He really has a knack for the showmanship. Hillary Clinton is making her way to the pork chop on a stick stand,
As one
kind of a
does.
requisite
Sure.
for a presidential visit. And then you hear the sound of a helicopter
Yeah.
overhead. Everyone looks up and they're pointing and emblazoned on the
Look,
side.
up in the sky, a
Right.
bird, it's a plane.
No, it's Trump.
It's Trump.
Emblazoned on the side of this helicopter in giant white letters is the word Trump. So it was pretty fantastic. He parked next to the fair, gave kids rides, some journalists rides. It was quite the spectacle.
He told one of the kids, like, the kid was all taken aback, and he was like, I'm Batman. I'm the real life Batman. That's what he told the kid. He's not Batman. He's Donald J. Trump.
Donald J. Trump!
Trump!
I've been waiting for that.
I love how he screams his name.
You know, I actually spent more time. I kind of avoided the media circus that was Trump. There was a lot of media circus for all the candidates, but particularly for Trump. And I spent most of my time talking to Iowans, talking to the voters, and they had a really interesting perspective. They're incredibly well informed people. I'm talking to people eating fried Twinkies, and we're talking about the Iran deal. And
You don't do that on the weekend? You don't like just fry up a couple pork chops on a stick and talk to your pals about sustainable agriculture and things like that?
Exactly.
Weird.
Exactly.
I thought we
it's
all
weird.
did that.
And I was surprised at the number of people. I would say about half the people I spoke to were leaning Trump. But then when you ask them kind of why, what they saw, whether they thought he was qualified to be commander in chief, most of the time they said, I like his style, or he's entertaining.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that kind of bears
That's
out.
one of the real things that is going to be very interesting is the electability, right? And whether or not people who support people like Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, I'm not trying to compare the two, but they are kind of outsiders that have got some traction, whether or not they believe that they're not electable.
Right.
That's going to be the interesting thing. Speaking of the Iowa Fair, Chris Christie's going to be going, and he was on Fox and Friends yesterday morning, and he was asked about how he's going to arrive.
Donald Trump made a big splash arriving at the Iowa State Fair in his $21 million Sikorsky helicopter. How will you be arriving at the State Fair in Iowa in the next couple days?
I think a pony.
A pony?
Yeah, a pony might be good.
It might be good. You might not
Pony
get
be
there in
good.
time.
It depends. It's a really good pony.
Okay.
Right, really good pony.
Governor, what did you think?
How are you going to upstage a $21 million helicopter? A pony.
Better be a really strong pony.
It's going to have to be like a Hercules type pony.
Hey, I hear they grow those out there.
Yeah, right. And
They grow those out there in
Iowa, of all
Iowa.
places, would have a pony
Right.
that could do that. Okay, so you're spending some time on 2016, politics reporter for Defense One, so you cover all things defense. What is it that people are really focusing on in Iowa? What were you hearing a lot of? What issues are they really focusing in on?
That was somewhat surprising to me, is when you ask people what the most important issues are for them, they'll usually say either national security or national security in the economy. Now, the economy that makes sense,
Sure.
right? Even with the recovery going the way it is, a lot of people still have a lot of concerns about jobs and wages. But national security was somewhat surprising. I mean, we're seeing in the polls still this trend is still kind of continuing to hold. Some people thought it might fade. That for Republicans, national security is pretty high up there, a little bit lower down for Democrats, but a more important issue than we'd expect otherwise. And when I'm talking to people about why they think that is or why it's more important for them this year, a lot of them said they've been watching the news and they're seeing the scary things going on in the world, and particularly the Islamic State's beheading of Americans, and that's really pushed national security up for them. So it's this kind of climate of anxiety around these threats, even in Iowa, that's really pushing this up as an important issue for them. So really the Islamic State, sort of counterterrorism, those are the issues that they talked about that were really concerning for them.
How are we doing with the war against the Islamic State? I mean, it is one of those things that comes up every now and then when they release a new video or a new story comes up, but I'm not hearing a ton of success stories out of there, or maybe it's just, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, a couple weeks ago, on August 8th, actually, that marked the 1-year anniversary of the U.S. war against the Islamic State.
That passed by awfully quietly, didn't it?
Right, which is pretty incredible. If you had a year ago, if you had kind of looked at it and said, oh, well, in a year's time, we're going to quietly pass through the 1-year anniversary of this, I think that would have been pretty shocking to people. So on that day, as a kind of look back, the Pentagon sort of gave its defense for why they think that they've made progress. They pointed mainly to, territory that's been taken back by the Kurds. In Syria and some areas of Iraq, and they've said that they've forced the Islamic State to sort of change the way that it's operating because of the amount of airstrikes. But it's really mixed. I mean, it's hard to point to progress when you're also seeing, the expansion in other areas in North Africa, in Libya. Yeah. You've seen them start to make gains in Afghanistan. So we're talking about even a wider theater than we started with a year ago.
There have been several different approaches to this from I'm going to focus in on the Republican race for president because, hell, there's 17 of them. I mean, there's plenty of material there.
Right.
But, in the debates, we got started to get a really interesting look at how some of the different candidates were going to approach this. Lindsey Graham, who was in the happy hour debate, as he called it.
Kids table.
Yeah, the kids table. The NIT tournament, as I called it. If he's president, and you either get an open hand or a closed fist. Right. And that's how he deals with the diplomacy. Donald Trump basically said with ISIS, just bomb them all.
Right.
Like, very short on detail, but just go over there and just bomb them all.
Right.
How sustainable of an idea is that?
Well, on Sunday, he actually gave a pretty long interview on Meet the Press, right?
Yep.
Where we saw more of his foreign policy platform, as you might call it. And in Iowa, he said a few things as well. The interesting thing he did say in Iowa is he gave a Trump-esque critique of Jeb Bush's sort of platform. And Bush has emerged in Iowa. He kind of doubled down on this. He's been, really defending his brother's Iraq war, suggesting that...
Good luck with that.
Right, suggesting that President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, they're the ones who lost the Iraq war. All the gains that had been made from the surge, it was won until it was lost by Obama and Clinton. And Trump's critique of it actually was interesting. He said, Jeb Bush suggested we need more action to show we've got skin in the game, quote unquote. And he said, that comment is ridiculous. Look at what we lost. We don't have anything to prove. That sort of language isn't helpful, which was an interesting commentary coming from Donald Trump. Then again, the following day, we've got him saying, this is my strategy for Iraq. Let's go in. Let's take all of their oil. And then, but he loves veterans. And then with the money that they get from taking the oil, he's going to give it to all the veterans. And his military advice, he gets his military advice from watching the TV shows.
Watching the TV shows.
Right.
Was that not amazing?
It was pretty incredible.
Where do you get your military advice? Well, I watch the TV shows.
Right.
Quote.
So
that's a quote.
In terms of what Donald Trump is actually advocating, people like his straight talk style. They like that he's brazen and he kind of speaks his mind. But then when you look at the actual feasibility of what he's suggesting, when you can get him to get into specifics, it's impossible. Actually, General Odierno, who retired last week, he very sort of deftly batted aside when people asked him what he thought of Trump's suggestion for Iraq, and he basically, didn't go into it too much, but very politely said, I disagree with his strategy.
A very diplomatic answer.
Right. And then with Lindsey Graham's, talking about the number of troops, I think people also appreciate to some extent that he's at least willing to give specifics. People have been asking, okay, you want more military action. What does that look like? What amount of troops are we talking here? And people have hesitated. So they at least appreciate that about Lindsey Graham. But the public level of support for a large-scale deployment of American troops in the Middle East, it just seems unlikely.
We don't have a ton of time before we need to take a break. I just want to ask you a quick question about Guantanamo Bay.
Right.
What's the latest with that?
So they're expected to be handing over, the White House is expected to be handing over their closure plan, which Senator John McCain has demanded in order to sort of move forward with Congress. They're expected to be trying to hand that over the next couple of weeks. They're actually doing site visits to sites in the U.S. that could potentially hold detainees.
Oh, wow.
So they went to Fort Leavenworth in Kansas last week, and they'll be going to the Naval Brig in Charleston this week. So things do seem to be moving forward, but it's still, the buck stops with Congress.
Sure. How's that playing into the 2016 race at all? Anybody really hitting on that hard?
Hasn't come up too much as of yet, but if things continue to progress, I'm sure we can expect it to.
All right, Molly O'Toole, she joins us in studio. She is politics reporter for Defense One. Follow her on Twitter at Molly M. O'Toole or Molly Motoole. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press. We're going to take a quick break. Lots more to talk about with Molly. Stay tuned.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
How I've been affected by gun violence over the years is through deaths of friends and family members and associates.
When I was 5 years old, I was held at gunpoint in a home invasion.
I've gone to the juvenile detention centers and I've met dozens of young kids, babies really, who have been affected by gun violence.
Directly, I've lost a few friends, but I think why this touches my heart is having children of my own.
I've been at parties where, I had just left the party and, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I heard that, somebody got shot and didn't make it.
There are a lot of people benefiting off of our pain, and it's time we do something.
I'm here to unload my investment because I think that it's important that we start kind of seeing where our money is going.
It's time to go to your financial advisor and demand that there are no gun investments in your 401k.
Even if you don't have investments, you can still help spread the word.
This is something everyone can do.
So if you push your people that have 401ks, it might be your grandma, it might be your cousin, this effort can make a big impact.
I'm unloading for my loved ones that I lost.
I'm unloading for my 18-year-old self.
I'm unloading my 401k for the future of my children.
I'm unloading.
I'm unloading
for my family and their future.
I'm unloading so that my daughter can grow up in a safe, loving world.
Unload and join the movement.
Use hashtag I'm unloading to pledge your support for gun-free investing.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello. Good morning.
Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit everything.
Yeah, a
it's
little bit.
Kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Drinking, random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
And our sexy liberal army of callers call in every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, we try to what? We're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela. You name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, 25 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I am hosting today's show. I have Molly O'Toole from Defense One joining me in studio. Thanks for being here, Molly.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about this Iran deal, which is going to be coming up for a vote here soon. The White House has been lobbying pretty hard to get this thing done. Barack Obama has tied himself to this Iran deal. How is this going to play out, do you think?
I think probably what's going to happen is that they might have the votes to knock it down initially, but there's no way that they have the votes in the Senate that I'm referring to. There's no way no way they have the votes to override the veto.
Right.
Which, if you think about it, kind of from a cynical politics perspective, kind of makes everybody happy. The Republicans get to say, we did our job, we voted this down, we oppose the president, and they get to say, but Obama with his executive actions, reckless power, he goes against the will of the American people, and then the White House gets to say, Republicans rejected diplomacy once again, but President Obama comes in, saves the day, and the Democrats can help him do that. So it's kind of it's not necessarily good for foreign policy, what we communicate to the world, but politically, kind of a win-win. I mean, they did lobby hard. They want it to be a bipartisan effort. They really do. I think the White House very much wants that. And they were really going after Senator Jeff Flake from Arizona, a Republican, who's seen as somewhat of a maverick when it comes to national security issues sometimes, not always towing the party line. But he came out against it. But I think that was one of their main focuses when it came to trying to get somebody else on board from the other side.
How big of a blow was it to not get Chuck Schumer on board?
Definitely a blow. I don't think you can sugarcoat that. I mean, if the Democrats retake the Senate, which they want to, they stand a shot of doing. Particularly, they just tend to do so much better when it comes to a presidential election. This is the next majority leader.
Yeah.
And so I think it was really significant for them to lose Schumer. It was always going to be a tough call. And I think you can even see that in their response. The press tried to sort of pull this out of them, and they suggested, well, Democrats are going to take this into consideration when they decide who is their majority leader, because he was, anointed by Harry Reid, who's retiring, to sort of jump the line over Senator Dick Durbin, who's the majority whip, or minority whip now. But I do think it's significant, which is why it makes it really interesting. I think one of the key people who's come out to support this, a really kind of bold, brave step, is Kirsten Gillibrand.
Yeah, right.
The junior senator from New York. She represents some of the same constituency as Chuck Schumer, but she came out for the deal, which couldn't have been necessarily an easy
We'll
move
see how
for
that
her.
plays out.
Yeah.
I think that this is a very, very interesting test for anybody, right. Voting on this to see where they come down on it. All right, Molly O'Toole, politics reporter for Defense One. Always great to have you in studio. Please come back again soon.
I will, and I hope he's here with us.
We'll try and bring Wee-Bay back in next time. And maybe some fried pork chops on a stick.
There we go.
So you can
I
really get the full
back.
experience.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry.
All right. Good luck out there on the road covering 2016. We'll definitely get you back in soon.
All right.
My name is Peter Ogburn. Coming up next, we'll be talking to the Sierra Club. Arctic drilling is back on the table. According to the Obama administration, we'll find out what that means and how environmentalists feel about that. Stay tuned. It's the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Indeed, it is the Bill Press Show, 33 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Remember, there are so many ways you can reach out and touch the show. Check out our website, BillPressShow.com, which we recently redid, by the way. Total overhaul of the website. It's hot now, man. It looks good. Go check it out, BillPressShow.com. We have a little embed video player so you can watch the show at any time of day. How you like that? The whole show, we put the whole thing up there. You can watch the whole entire show any time of the day. We also have great little audio clips that we have from the show we put up there. Great stuff. Bill's column that he writes for The Hill. What do you want, man? We're giving you everything. Follow the show at BP Show. You can follow me at Peter Ogburn. I suggest you follow Bill at BP Show before you follow me, but it's out there. All right, so an interesting little tidbit yesterday. I got a Politico breaking news alert. The Obama administration gave Shell approval today to drill for oil and gas in the undersea Arctic, escalating a battle with the same environmentalists who also cheered the president's actions on climate change earlier this month. To get their perspective on that, we are joined by Athan Manuel, director of the Lands Protection Program for the Sierra Club. Joins us in studio. Athan, good morning.
Hey, Peter, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tell me, first of all, I want to get into a little bit of the history of this particular topic, but tell us exactly what the Obama administration gave Shell permission to do.
Well, they're going to allow them to drill on some leases that they purchased, during the Bush administration and under the previous president, and for the first time start seeing oil and gas drilling happening in the Arctic Ocean, which we think is a horrible idea, one that undercuts the president's climate work and one that could damage an incredibly pristine ecosystem up there in the Arctic Ocean.
Tell me why that's such a bad idea for people who don't know.
Well, one, I guess the oil industry is just a dirty and dangerous business. You look at the BP Deepwater Horizon spill a couple of years ago. You look at the chronic leaks and spills that foul this industry. It's just one that doesn't have a very clean track record and a track record that's incompatible with that kind of Arctic Ocean ecosystem you see there. But it's also just bad for the climate. If we're serious about fighting climate change, we agree with the president that we need to keep 2/3 of the fossil fuels currently underground where they belong and not develop them. And one of the best places to start making that policy decision is to keep the oil in the Arctic Ocean underground so it doesn't harm our climate further. The only reason that Shell can even consider drilling in the Arctic Ocean is climate change. Before climate change started warming up that area, the ice was too thick and would not break up even during the summer, so that you couldn't have a boat go up there or a temporary drill rig put in place. And so
that's fascinating, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's a very cynical issue. Now that climate change has broken up the ice enough to allow for drilling, companies want to go in there and make climate change worse by continuing to produce oil.
Tell me a little bit about how the Obama administration has been on stuff like this, because he's talked a lot about reducing our dependency on oil and things like that, and yet here we are sort of getting into another situation where we're looking for this oil and gas. So overall, how's it going?
Well, it's funny. Generally, this president's been great. He's been the best elected official probably in the world on fighting climate change. And you look at what he's done on the Clean Power Plant rule, on making our cars more fuel efficient, on doing more on energy efficiency across the board. This president gets it on climate change, but on the decisions to keep fossil fuels in the ground, we're still waiting to see that action catch up to the actions he's done on power plants and on fuel economy. So we need to start making these difficult decisions. And this is a difficult decision. Once a company buys a lease, it's harder to stop. But we expect this president to, we really hope this president would make that tough call and tell Shell that it's a mistake to drill in the Arctic Ocean and that they were not going to give them their permits.
I mentioned in this Politico alert that I talked about some of the praise that the president has gotten in recent months. What's he been doing right here that we can at least talk about some positive stuff before we get back to this Arctic drilling?
Well, the Clean Power Plant rule he announced a week and a half ago is historic. To make our power plants much, much cleaner, where they emit much less pollution, much less greenhouse gas that would cause climate change. And that is the most strict emissions law ever done in the United States, probably in the whole world. Today, the Environmental Protection Agency is going to announce some new regulations to capture methane from oil drilling and other extractive industries. Again, that's going to be a very important and a very strong rule that is going to start finally regulating how much methane we put into the environment. And a couple of years ago, the president mandated that all cars in the U.S. or fleets in the United States average around more than 50 miles per gallon starting in 2030. So this president has done some very, very historic steps that the Sierra Club has been very enthusiastic about and have been very proud to support this president as he's made some very historic gains on fighting climate change. We just want to see that same kind of action and vision applied to places like the Arctic Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, where they're considering allowing offshore drilling for the first time, to keep coal in the ground in places like in Utah and Wyoming. So we need this president to extend that same kind of vision and leadership that he has on some other things to this issue as well.
Talk to me about Keystone Pipeline, Keystone XL. I know that the Sierra Club was extremely out in front about the dangers of that. The president, the Obama administration, finally sort of came around and said that any legislation that would make that happen, they would veto. Is this over and done with? Are we finished with Keystone?
Well, we do think he's going to reject that pipeline and probably do it, we hope, as a run-up to the Paris talks on climate that are going to happen later this year. So, again, on Keystone, he probably will make that decision based on climate. So that will be a historic decision if he does reject that pipeline, and hopefully paves the way for him to get it right eventually on the Arctic Ocean, too, and tell Shell they're not going to be able to drill. The one thing about the Shell decision is that this is a first step in them developing that oil. They're just going to put up temporary rigs this summer to see if there is actually oil under the Arctic Ocean in the Chukchi Sea. They're years away from putting up a production platform that would bring that oil onshore or bring it to any kind of refinery in the United States or anywhere around the world. So this is going to be a long-time fight. The president still has time to get this one right, and we're going to continue to push him to do that.
That's a good point, right? That if you don't like the way that this is headed, how should people get involved?
Well, you're going to see more and more protests. But if folks don't want to do any kind of direct action or show up at rallies, it's really important just to constantly talk to your elected officials, write letters to the editor, keep this issue, call into shows like yours, and keep raising this issue, because we need to make this a big issue, to continue to make it a big issue, the same way you saw around Keystone, frankly, with just fervor around stopping this bad decision from going forward.
All right, Athan Manuel, Director of the Lands Protection Program for the Sierra Club. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Bill Press Show. Really, really appreciate it.
Sure, my pleasure, Peter. Good luck.
All right, Athan. Thanks so
Bye-bye.
much for the update. Here on the Bill Press Show, we're going to take a quick break, and we come back. We're going to talk about Amazon, everybody's favorite online retailer. Might not be your favorite for much longer. Take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue it out. Turn to E. Or lower heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Yeah. I'm gonna be there in a second. Hang on. I'm looking this up. I have that other Amazon story somewhere. I heard it. Yeah, so it's the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press. By the way, the Daily Show is no longer the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. He has hosted his last Daily Show. I just saw, you know what he's moving on to next? Maybe direct another movie? No. Maybe putting up that album he's been working on? No. He's going to be hosting SummerSlam, which is a professional wrestling event. He's hosting a wrestling event?
You know what I find fascinating about wrestling is that there's so many closet WWE, WWF fans out there. Yeah. I'm not one, but like sometimes it's people you least expect.
This is a safe space if you want to get this out.
I'm not ready.
Okay, you're not ready yet. It's okay. It's okay. I mean, this is a welcoming environment. We would allow you to thrive, and we wouldn't judge you for that. I used to watch wrestling. Yeah. I don't watch it anymore. My goodness. But I mean, that seems like an odd career choice. It's funny. Good for him, I guess. He could probably host the Academy Awards if he wanted to, but he's hosting SummerSlam.
I hope he referees a WNBA game next.
Yeah, right?
That'd be good next step.
This is actually great, Jamie. What if he just goes around and just like all the weird niche sports.
A barnstorming tour.
Right?
That'd be great.
Like all these weird sports, right? That could use a little more attention, like have him come out and like call a women's soccer game or WNBA game, like you said.
And then turn it into an HBO documentary.
I'd watch before
start making money again.
This Will Ferrell thing. You see this thing coming out?
Mm-hmm.
He played baseball for all these
You're not excited about that?
No.
Oh, it looks great.
And look,
the whole thing was great.
I feel about Will Ferrell about the same way I feel about professional wrestling, right? Like, it used to be okay to like.
Oh, no.
It used to be okay to like Will Ferrell.
Oh.
It's not anymore.
No. You're talking about Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler
is. It was never okay to like Adam Sandler. It was never okay to like Adam Sandler.
We're not going to get into this.
Adam Sandler was never funny. Will Ferrell owns his audience, right? Like, he has an audience, and respect for that, but that's a tired act. Step Brothers, by the way, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Incredible.
A criminally underrated comedy.
I just don't think we've seen the end of Will Ferrell yet. Yes, there's been a bad stretch, but he's not going to go off the deep end like Sandler did.
I don't think he'll ever go off the deep end quite as bad as Sandler did. You ever see anybody drop that fast?
Good God, no.
You see this Pixels movie?
You see all the hate it's received?
Not even my children will like, and they'll go see anything. I was like, cause I told you yesterday about Camp Dad. It's been Camp Dad all summer long, right? Like, because it's just been me nonstop because they don't have school. And because I work the hours I work, I usually get home at a decent hour. I'm so ready for them to go back to school because I need to get some work done. Because it's like Tuesday, 1 o'clock, they've already been playing video games since 9 a.m. or watching the Idiot Box since 9 a.m. It's like, what are we going to do now? Oh, let's go see a movie. We've seen every movie just about.
But you have not seen Pixels?
They were like, we're not going to go see Pixels.
Good. Even the kids recognize
They recognize.
It's a terrible,
that movie looks
horrible
stupid.
movie.
We didn't go see Fantastic Four either.
It sounds like you're doing all right.
It looks terrible.
I mean, as far as your movies go this summer.
It looks terrible. It looks terrible. Anyway. Good for Jon Stewart in SummerSlam. I mean, that's an interesting next step in your career. So you know it, you love it, you use it, we all use it. I use Amazon at least once a week. We use it a lot. This Prime membership thing that you could get, oh man, not a better deal on the internet. You just order stuff that's at your door the next day. It's the greatest. But Amazon is under a little bit of scrutiny here because the New York Times did a big piece. They interviewed, what's the number? 100 current and former Amazonians, which, by the way, they work at Amazon. They're not Amazonians. Members of the leadership, I'm quoting from the New York Times, members of the leadership team, human resources executives, marketers, retail specialists, and engineers who worked on projects from the Kindle to the grocery delivery to the recent mobile phone launch described how they tried to reconcile the sometimes punishing aspects of their workplace with what many called its thrilling power to create. So this is a fascinating piece on the Times over the weekend. I suggest all of you go and read it because it talks about Amazon and what kind of environment it is, right? Like they made a conscious decision that they were not going to be a like country club brand of prestige the way that say Microsoft or Apple did, right? Like they have their campuses and they actually refer to it as like a country club. You show up and it's all the amenities you could possibly want. You're very comfortable. They said, no, we want our people to create around the clock. We want them to be thinking about how they can create new stuff, new content, new products, how it all fits, how it all works in with the Amazon model. They are the biggest shipper. By the way, if I read one more news story that talks about Amazon as the nation's largest online bookseller, are you kidding me? I read actual stories in 2015 that referred to Amazon as a bookseller. It's not that, right? They ship everything. And this story takes a look at all the different problems that a lot of these workers have had. Like I said, 100 current and former employees. Here's a quote from a man named Bo Olson. He said, quote, "You walk out of a conference room and you'll see a grown man covering his face. Nearly every person I worked with, I saw cry at their desk." Nearly every person he worked with, he saw crying at the desk? Is Amazon really that bad of a company? Now, what's interesting is how they have responded to this story. Jeff Bezos wrote a very confusing letter to employees. And we're going to back this up with some Jay Carney clips, who works for Amazon now, too, by the way. They seem to deny the story while also confirming it.
People like
weird.
Jeff Bezos, the founder, and people who've been at the company for 10 or 15 years don't recognize the Amazon that the New York Times wrote about.
Okay, so he says they don't recognize that. But in the Bezos email, he talks about shockingly callous management practices, end quote, and that people were, quote, being treated without empathy while enduring family tragedies and serious health problems, end quote. So he acknowledges that people were talking about this. He just says, I've never heard of that, which, I mean, I don't actually think that Jeff Bezos has created this culture of unsafe and hostile work environments. I don't think he set out to do that. I just don't know that he's got his hands around this issue. And when Jay Carney, he was on CNN yesterday, right? And he was talking about that this is just a problem that a lot of tech companies have.
The story is sort of based on the idea that there's high turnover and attrition, but the facts are that the attrition, people leaving, cycling in and out of this company, is completely consistent with other major tech companies in the United States. There's no difference.
So he couches that a little bit and says that it's not necessarily the culture that is what all tech companies have, but the turnover rate, the things like that. So I don't love the response from Amazon. I will say that one thing that Bezos got right in his letters, he said, if you see anything, like we're creating a space where you can come forward, you can talk about this, email HR people, we need to get this out into the light. That's the only way you deal with this stuff is you don't cover it up. You got to get it all out there in the light. I give them credit for doing that. But if a lot of these stories are true, they got a real problem on their hands. And they're going to have some better answers. 54 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press. Take a very, very quick break. We'll wrap up the show after this.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello.
Good morning.
Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit everything.
Yeah, a little
It's
bit.
kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Drinking. Random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
And our sexy liberal army of callers call in every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, we try to, we're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela, you name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got a great week of shows on tap. All this week, even though Bill is out, Elise is out. Jamie, you're doing a great job there. Running the board. You got this hard break coming up here. Don't miss that, okay? Ray Rogers, thank you so much for filling in on the phone. Cyprian Bolin doing a great job. And of course, thank you to all of the guests for bearing with me today, for bringing in my big dumb dog, who's been in here this whole time. And he hasn't barked once. Have you? That's a sweet boy. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Lots of good shows coming up this week. It's the Bill Press Show. We'll see what happens with the Hillary emails. I'm sure we'll be probably up to, like 600 classified emails by tomorrow. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that. You can call and hate. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.